Recent headlines of a double murder in Devil's Den State Park shocked an entire nation. A family of 4 was out enjoying their new state after having just moved to Arkansas when their hike turned into a nightmare. An unknown subject fatally stabbed both parents and fled into the Ozarks. This is the story of the July 2025 murders in Devil's Den. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forest to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hello, everyone. I don't know what day I'm going to release this, so happy day, whatever day it is for you. My name is Elise, and I'm your host. Thank you so much for listening. I just wanted to release this. It is an ongoing case. I'm not going to go super into detail. I'm just putting this out there just in case you didn't see the major headlines about this double murder. Now, this actually happened in my home state of Arkansas. I actually grew up going to Devil's Den a lot. As a kid, my family and I went to camp, hike, and in college, I went to college not too far away from here. Well, I say not far, a couple of hours. And I would often go up on the weekends and stay in Fayetteville with friends, and we would hike here a lot. So it is very dear to my heart, actually, because I have spent a lot of time in this area, and that's mainly why I wanted to cover today's case. Now, my favorite trails in the area are the Butterfield hiking trail. I actually backpacked this one in 2018, I believe, 2018, somewhere around there, and it's actually 15 miles long. The loop is marked with blue blazes, and it begins and ends in Devil's Den State Park, but it actually passes through the Ozark National Forest in Washington and Crawford counties before returning back into the state park. Now, this used to be an old road stagecoach line that was used a lot way back in the day. And actually, a writer for the New York Herald, Waterman L. Ormsby, he described this trail as it passed through the Boston Mountains. And he said, quote, "It is impossible that any road could be worse. I might say the road was steep, rugged, jagged, rough, and mountainous, and then wish for more impressive words." So this is a very rugged trail. It's long-ish, but it's very pretty and has a lot of cool rock formations on it. Now, another really cool trail in the state park is the Devil's Den Self-Guided Trail, and it is a national recreation trail. It's 1.5 miles long, and it passes by 2 of the most popular attractions at the park, which happen to be Devil's Den and the Devil's Icebox. So basically, there's a lot of caves and interesting rock formations, and that's why the state park has the name Devil's Den. Another very popular trail that I've done several times is the Yellow Rock Trail. It's 3 miles, and there's a bit of elevation gain, but when you get to the very top, you will be on Yellow Rock, and you'll have an unobstructed view of the Lee Creek Valley. It is a beautiful trail. So let's talk about Devil's Den State Park. It's 2,500 acres, and it's actually in northwest Arkansas. So, I don't know, think like bottom of Missouri, top of Arkansas. It's not like on the border, but it is in northwest Arkansas. Now, it is in the Lee Creek Valley in the Boston Mountains, which are the southwestern part of the Ozarks. It's open year-round for all kinds of recreation, including hiking, mountain biking, and horseback riding. Devil's Den State Park also has several picnic areas, a swimming pool, and cabins with camping sites ranging from modern to primitive. There are lots and lots of things to do here. You can also find fossils of coral and crinoids along the banks of the Lee Creek at Devil's Den. So basically, it's kind of confusing. Everything has the same name, but you can find really cool fossils along the creek if you look hard and long enough. Fun fact I didn't know until today, Devil's Den State Park protects the largest sandstone crevice area in the United States. That was a tongue twister. Now, the valley is littered with numerous sandstone caves, bluffs, ravines, rock shelter, and crevices that provided an excellent hiding place for outlaws on the Butterfield stage line from 1858 until the beginning of the American Civil War in 1861. Now, like I said, the Butterfield Trail stagecoach line thing is now a backpacking or hiking trail, but it was actually a stagecoach line at one point in time, and you can see where the old road was. I gotta throw in some history. So basically, with the onset of the war, the Rocky area was used by bands of Confederate guerrillas as a hideout and staging area for conducting raids on the Union Army's supplies, as well as civilian targets. The roads of the Butterfield state line were also used by regular troops during the Civil War. Confederate and Union forces used the road during the Battle of Prairie Grove and for the raid on Van Buren. The former town of Anna is contained within the park. It was destroyed by a flood in 1893, and all that remains today of the town is a cemetery, a well, and some foundations. And actually, you can see this along the Butterfield hiking trail near Junction Camp. I've been there. It is kind of creepy and haunting to see and experience because it's basically a ghost town. There's very few structures, but it's just so creepy that people lived way in here and were taken out by a flood, and all that's left is basically their old cemetery. It's really cool to see, but very creepy. Now, Devil's Den State Park basically came to be because of the Great Depression. The Lee Creek Valley was identified during the Great Depression as a site for a state park. Construction began in 1933, and the park was built by young men working for the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was established during the presidency of Franklin D. Roosevelt to provide work for unemployed men throughout the United States. The young men of the CCC lived in military-style barracks and constructed many of the recreational facilities of the park, including its pavilions, trails, and the dam and spillway on Lee Creek that forms Lake Devil. Devil's Den State Park is recognized as one of the best preserved CCC projects in the entire United States, and it was actually listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1994 for its CCC-related rustic architecture. Honestly, in my opinion, it's probably the best state park in the entire state of Arkansas. Full disclosure, I haven't been to every single state park because there are like 52 in Arkansas, but I really, really enjoy any amount of time that I spend at Devil's Den, especially during the fall. Now, earlier I mentioned something called the Devil's Icebox, and it's actually one of the most visited caves in the park, and it's named for the cool air that rushes out of the cave. Air enters the cave at a point higher on the mountainside and is cooled as it passes through the mountain to the mouth of the cave. It's honestly super cool to experience. I'm pretty sure it's still shut down because of white nose syndrome with the local bat population, but you can still stand by it and feel the cool air rush out. Another cool fact, if you're a film buff or like TV like I do, they filmed a lot of the third season of True Detective in this area. And in fact, I didn't know that until I'm watching it, and they're looking at like kind of like a crime scene that the investigators are, they're investigating, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's in Devil's Den, and they literally were filming on the trail to Yellow Rock or Yellow Rock Trail. So super cool. They filmed like the entire third season of True Detective in Northwest Arkansas, and a lot of it was filmed within Devil's Den State Park. The park features 17 full-service cabins and 143 campsites. There are cabins all along Lee Creek. All of them are rustic, with fully equipped kitchens plus heating and air conditioning. The cabins with stone fireplaces are open year-round. There's a lot of hiking. There are 64 miles of trails that are open to hiking, mountain biking, and horseback riding. And 20 of those trails are designated horse trails. Each horse trail begins and ends at the Devil's Den State Park Horse Camp on the southern end of the camp in the Lee Creek Valley. 2 of the trails cross into neighboring Ozark National Forest, and one of those is the Butterfield. So unfortunately, I don't know what trail this family was on when they were brutally attacked. It just said on a trail. Nowhere in any of the reporting I could find did it say which trail they were on. But they had 2 small kids. So if I'm making an assumption, I'm thinking they were on the self-guided trail or the Yellow Rock Trail, because those are the 2 more popular ones for families with young kids. But I don't actually know if they were on either of those. I'm just speculating at this point. Now, there's something deeply unsettling when nature's quiet beauty becomes a sense of horror. Devil's Den State Park, a place known for panoramic views and ancient sandstone bluffs, recently became ground zero for one of the most brutal and heartbreaking crimes our country has seen in years. On a late July afternoon in 2025, a hiking trail transformed into a crime scene. A peaceful family hike ended in tragedy. Yet, this episode isn't easy to imagine, but it's a story that demands attention. Clinton David Brink, who is 43, and his wife, Kristen Amanda Brink, who is 41, they had recently relocated to Prairie Grove, Arkansas. And I saw reporting as much as 10 days prior. On that fateful afternoon, they were hiking with their daughters when tragedy struck. The couple was found dead, stabbed to death on a walking trail. By all appearances, this was a sudden, horrific ambush. And according to investigators, the attack was swift and brutal. Kristen's final act was one of profound courage. She led their children to safety, then returned to assist her husband, and lost her life in the process. So this family of 4 recently moved to Arkansas, and they were going out to nearby Devil's Den State Park. It's a really great place. It's really kid-friendly. And they decided, hey, let's go take a hike and see more of the state. And unfortunately, a man attacked them while they were on the trail. Now, from what I've read online and heard, he started attacking Clinton first. The mom, of course, I can't even imagine what it was to be like there. I mean, she did what she knew to do. She got her kids out of there. Some reports say she got them off the trail back to the car. Some say that she just got them off of the trail to the trailhead. Either way, she got her kids out of immediate danger, and she went back to help her husband. And this man who attacked her husband then attacked and killed her too. Now, the 2 girls were unharmed, and authorities believe they made their way to park staff or help nearby, likely becoming the only living witnesses to the scene that the children should know no child should ever see. I did see that a nearby hiker was in the area and helped them, but the cell service isn't great. So this hiker took the girls or had to drive back to closer to park headquarters to get better cell service and alert staff that there was something going on that needed law enforcement attention. That was basically all anybody knew for a few days. This couple was attacked. Their kids are okay. Someone's on the loose. This person that they think did it, he actually taped over his license plate so that it wasn't recognizable on any sort of highway cameras. And they got a description of the car. It was dark. And that was pretty much it. And honestly, when I saw that first headline, I didn't know if anyone was going to know who did this. And to my surprise, law enforcement quickly released a composite sketch of a suspect. He was a white man of medium build, clad in dark clothing, sporting a baseball cap, sunglasses, fingerless gloves, which is weird, and carrying a black backpack. Now, investigators did mention that he likely sustained injuries during the attack. He was last seen speeding out of the park in a black four-door sedan, possibly a Mazda, with a license plate partially obscured by tape. With the park's remote terrain and spotty cell service, the escape route offered grim advantage to this guy. I mean, it wouldn't have been too busy. It is Arkansas. It is summer. Kids are out of school, but it is July. It is way too hot, in my opinion, to be hiking out in this area. Ticks. Oh, I just can't even tell you how bad it is to hike in Arkansas in July. It's terrible. So no one really knew if they were going to even be able to arrest this guy. Now, they released a composite sketch, and some people online speculated it could be Travis Decker, who everybody knows, this was also nationwide. He murdered his 3 daughters and disappeared into the woods, and he still has not been found. So people online speculated this might be Travis Decker. Maybe Clinton and Kristen recognized him and they, he killed them because of it. But that is so far-fetched and obviously not what happened, because 4 days after the attack, they arrested someone. And I can't help but think that the arrest came because after they released the composite, they released a picture from a trail cam of the person. It wasn't the front of him. It was literally just his back. You could see the hat. You could see the backpack. You could see his hair color and no face. Like, you couldn't see his face. But honestly, that's maybe all it took for someone to recognize him and turn him in. So 4 days later, 28-year-old Andrew James McGann was arrested at a barber shop in Springdale, about 30 miles away. As soon as they released his name, I am on Google. I am looking up everything, and I find that he was actually supposed to be teaching 3rd grade at Bayari Elementary in Springdale, Arkansas. Now, the elementary had already erased that post. They deleted it. Like, you could still see half of it. But yeah, he was going to be a school teacher. Well, he was already a school teacher, but he had just moved to Arkansas to teach in Springdale. Cops say that they matched DNA at the crime scene with Andrew, and they even found evidence in his car. And he actually admitted to the killings. And I think it's also really telling that he was at this barber shop getting a haircut, presumably so that he didn't look like the sketch. But honestly, the sketch and him, yes, they looked very similar. Now, the girl who owns the barber shop, she posted on Facebook. It went viral. Of course, Arkansas is like one big small town. And she actually said that he wouldn't sign in because he was a walk-in. He wouldn't sign in. He was acting really strange, and he wasn't talking at all. And then the cops come in and they arrest him, and he did not get a full haircut. So very interesting that he was arrested while altering his appearance. And I can suspect that he was doing that because the sketch had been released just a few days before. He now faces 2 counts of capital murder, with prosecutors seeking the death penalty. And in Arkansas, and the only reason why I know this is because I'm from Arkansas. In Arkansas, the punishment for capital murder is the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. So let's talk about who this Andrew is. Now, he was born and raised in the Garfield Ridge neighborhood of Chicago and graduated from Fenwick High School in the neighboring Oak Park in 2015. He actually left Chicago that same year for Oklahoma State University. After graduating from Oklahoma State in spring 2022, he became a Flower Mound, Texas certified educator and would later become an elementary teacher from the Oklahoma cities of Broken Arrow and Sand Springs. Now, he had been living in Springdale, Arkansas since June 2025. So this man actually was a teacher. I have heard that he taught 5th grade, 4th grade, 2nd grade, whatever. He'd been a teacher for a couple of years, and he was about to start his 3rd year teaching in Arkansas. And I don't really know why he moved there, maybe family, but it's kind of far from Chicago, from where his family is. An email that was shared to CBS News reported that McGann was placed on leave in Texas pending the results of an investigation into complaints of poor classroom management and poor professional judgment. This was happening in 2023. Now, CBS spoke to a family member from the Flower Mound school district whose son attended Donald Elementary School 3 years prior, saying that her daughter reported very inappropriate behavior by McGann towards the girls in his class, which included being very touchy with the girls and having them sit on his lap and make comments to them and keeping them back from recess. So, that's disgusting, because that is, let's call it like what it is. It's grooming. And this mom actually called him standoffish. And basically, she said he was the most standoff teacher she'd ever met. Now, parents across the county had previously reported concerns over McGann's classroom behavior before he resigned from neighboring Louisville's independent school district in 2023. He was briefly hired by the Plano Independent School District in Plano, Texas in August 2024, and he only worked for 4 days before he resigned. Now, I've seen online some districts call this passing the trash. So when there's inappropriate behavior or just overall crappy teaching happening, it's not like these educators get fired. They just aren't asked to renew their contracts or asked to resign, and they can go get a job somewhere else. And this is really a huge problem in public education. It's really, really bad. I work in public education. I see it all the time. I love the school I work in. I think it's a great school. However, I worked in different districts in different states in the past 5 years, and it is bad everywhere. So I don't want to be like Grim Reaper of public education, but it seems like just about anyone can get a job inside of a school. That's all I'm going to say. So if this is too confusing for you, he taught in Texas, and then he taught in Oklahoma. And at both schools that he taught in, there were complaints and reports of inappropriate behavior with students. He was living in Bixby, Oklahoma in June 2025, and he actually left and started to live in Springdale, Arkansas. And yes, he did get hired as a teacher for the 2025-26 school year prior to the murders. He was hired. He passed a background check because he'd never been charged with anything. And yeah, he got hired. He's supposed to be teaching 3rd grade this year in Arkansas. Absolutely crazy. Now, he was arrested on July 30th, 2025. And like I said, he was charged with 2 counts of capital murder before being booked into the Washington County Jail. Authorities emphasized the attack was completely random because there was no known connection that existed between McGann and the Brinks. It was a senseless act of aggression in a place where people go to escape, not to confront evil. The brutality of this crime stunned both Arkansas and basically the entire nation. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders condemned the violence by saying, "We do not tolerate violent crime in Arkansas," which is so funny because Arkansas has one of the highest rates of violent crimes in the nation. I'm glad they caught this guy so quickly. It was 4 or 5 days. However, this happens more often than you think, and not just in Arkansas. So my advice, if you're in a state park, if you're in a national park, if you're in a national forest, carry something to protect you. That's not to say that it's going to help you at all, but if anything happens, you will be a little bit more equipped to handle a situation that could put your life in danger. Clinton and Kristen, they died as heroes protecting their little girls. The daughters, I'm sure you've seen all of this online, but they are safe with family members that are taking care of them. And actually, Andrew McGann just had a court appearance. He was arraigned like 2 days ago, I think. So I don't have the time or energy to do a lot of updates with cases. And I just wanted to talk about this one because I'm from Arkansas. I've spent a lot of time in this specific area, and this went like very, very national. I mean, it was like, bam. Honestly, it reminded me of the Moscow. Oh my gosh, I can't remember how to say it. I just think of how it's spelt. The murders in Idaho of the 4 college students. And so it's similar. I mean, extremely brutal crime with little to no motive. And it's so scary because I think this just reminds everyone that anybody can be a victim. It doesn't matter if you have enemies or not. Now, after Andrew was arrested, investigators from other states started contacting the Arkansas State Police because they were looking into possible links to other cold cases, like a 2020 hiking murder in Wisconsin and a 2023 shooting in Vermont. But Wisconsin authorities are still analyzing his DNA, and Vermont has actually ruled out involvement, like Andrew's involvement. So that is a terrible, terrible thing that happened last month in Arkansas in Devil's Den State Park. But it's not the first time this state park has had eerie or unexplained things happen, because this area is actually a cluster. And if you are familiar with Missing 411, that's this area. That's one of the areas. And let's talk about 2 times that Devil's Den has been in the news. In June 1946, in the dense forest of Devil's Den State Park, 8-year-old Mary Catherine Van Alst disappeared from her family's campsite after splashing in a pond with her brothers. Rescue efforts mobilized hundreds of volunteers, bloodhounds, and airplanes. Some even brought in divers to scan bodies of water for signs of her. 6 days after she vanished, a World War II veteran and university student, Porter Chadwick, heard a faint response to his call of, "Here I am," near a bluff about 7 miles from the cabin that her family was camping at. Now, Catherine emerged from a cave, dehydrated but alive, and basically she said, "Thank you." Those were the first words that she said were, "Thank you." During her time alone, she survived by drinking from a cave pool, eating wild blackberries, and soaking her swollen feet in a stream, and sheltering from rain in a cave. She later admitted that for a time, she believed she wouldn't survive, but she never felt frightened or scared. Meanwhile, her father, John Van Alst, led one of the search teams before collapsing due to overexertion. Despite initial suspicions from authorities, he was cleared and his wife continued aiding the search in other ways. Ultimately, Catherine's safe return was nothing short of miraculous. Now, here's the thing. This is a missing 411 case, so if you know about it, I'm not going to go into crazy details because honestly, I can't remember all of them, but this is a missing 411 case because how did she get 7 miles from her camp? And the crazy thing that's always mentioned in her case is that this is extremely rugged. There are lots of thickets and briar patches, and her feet were not like roughed up at all. She didn't have scratches on her legs. Her feet weren't scratched or roughed up. She was still in the bathing suit that she was wearing when she went missing. And she was fine. Like, she was fine. This is a suspicious one, missing 411. Anyway, so I think she has been interviewed for other things, but basically suspicious disappearance of a child who then returns and things don't add up. And then in 2017, Devil's Den saw another missing person who sadly never came out of the forest. Now, this person's name is Rodney Letterman, and he was last seen August 27th, 2017, in the area of the Butterfield Trail at Devil's Den State Park. Now, him and a friend were hiking the trail when the other person went back to the car to get medical supplies for Rodney. However, when his friend came back with the medical supplies, he was nowhere to be found. There were 127 volunteers and paid searchers, and they inspected close to 4,000 acres and 6 square miles searching for him. Now, the trail he was on does dip into the Ozark National Forest. So that is likely where they were looking all of that space. Because if you remember, Devil's Den is only 2,500 acres, and they searched even a larger space than that. Now, I found this information on Reddit. So, according to his wife, Stasia, not sure how to say it, he suffered from high blood pressure, needing daily medication, and he told her he hadn't been feeling well before leaving on the trip. Letterman and his friend only had gotten about a mile from their vehicle before he sat down to rest, and sources differ on whether he just reported feeling unwell or if he was suffering from a medical emergency. His friend hiked back to the car to receive Rodney's blood pressure medication, but when he returned, Rodney wasn't anywhere to be found. Now, they were only 1 mile in on a 15-mile trail. Rodney was carrying a 1.5 liters of water, but no backpack or camping supplies. A source at the Parks Department said he did not have a lot of hiking experience. So this is just a word of the wise. If you don't have a lot of hiking experience and or you have a medical condition that requires medication, you need to, 1, pack your medication with you. 2, take shorter hikes. Go on easier, shorter hikes. This hard 15 miles is not for someone that does not have a lot of hiking experience. They did have search and rescue teams. People were on horseback, on ATVs, foot, and with drones. Rodney's cell phone, cell charger, and a flashlight were discovered along the way. Some sources note that the cell phone was found at a primitive campsite, of which there are several along this trail. Now, basically, the cops didn't say anything else about the search. And by September 6, 2017, the search was scaled back. The assistant superintendent of Devil's Den, Tim Scott, said they had no reason yet to suspect that Rodney was in danger. Until we find evidence that leans to that, we're still looking for him alive. There were basically no traces of Rodney found at all except his phone until 2019. Some hikers were on the Butterfield Trail, and they said they were near the trail, and they found a human skull. They obviously alerted rangers who came and retrieved the skull, looked for other remains, and sent the skull to the state lab for processing and identification. It was identified as Rodney, but they've never found the rest of his remains, which is really scary and creepy because that's just one bone, right, in the body. And where is the rest of his body? Now, this case never got a lot of attention at the time of his disappearance or when the skull was found. And honestly, when I was backpacking this trail was in October 2018, just a few months before his skull was found. Now, when I backpacked it, there was terrible, terrible weather, lightning, flooding, thunderstorms. So my then hiking partner and I, we exited the trail to the road. We backtracked, we exited back to the road, and we hiked on the road back to our car because it was not safe to continue to hike in that weather. I'm starting to think like if we would have kept going, would we have found Rodney's skull? No one has said specifically where the skull was located, but hikers found it near the trail. This is not a trail that many people set out to do because it's so long. It's not really your average person's day hike, right? It's 15 miles and it's pretty rugged. So I'm wondering if it was super off the trail or maybe concealed by shrubs or leaves or leaf litter, just whatever. But someone found the skull. It was Rodney's, and they sent it in for, not even an autopsy, but to determine cause of death, which I don't think you can do with just a skull unless, it's like blunt force head trauma. So yeah, it's just really unfortunate. I'm sure my theory is he was having a medical emergency. He might have I don't know, become delirious or was having a panic attack. Maybe he was like, I just need to get out of here, and tried to go the way that he thought was back to the car, but wasn't. I mean, only a mile in, and you get lost enough to, die out there. I wonder how far into the trail the skull was. I shouldn't, the skull. I've done about a little over half of this hike, and obviously I never found a human skull, but I also wasn't really looking for one either. And when I go hiking, I stay on the trail, especially if I'm alone. So I don't know, just a personal tie to that. And then after I saw the news about the double homicide in July, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember a true crime case out of Devil's Den. I cannot for the life of me remember if it was Devil's Den or Petit Jean. Both are state parks. But basically, this businessman, went missing. They found his car abandoned in one of the state parks. I can't remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was Devil's Den. They never found him. And I think there was even a documentary about it, or he was featured on 2020 or something like that. I cannot remember his name. I cannot remember which park it was, but I'm pretty sure it was Devil's Den, maybe Petit Jean. I cannot remember. And everyone thought he faked his death. There was some financial issues going on. Maybe it was the mob or whatever. It's small town Arkansas. There was a lot of theories. Basically, everyone thought he faked his death. And then 5 or 10 years later or something, someone found his remains inside the state park. And so that's just a testament to how wild and rugged even state parks can be. I'm trying to find the words. A lot of state parks out west aren't they're rugged, right? But there's not as much shrubs and plants and trees. But that stuff really can easily obscure human remains. So just saying, the state parks in Arkansas seem a little crazy. So I'm sorry, I can't remember any other information about that case. And I even tried to Google and use ChatGPT for that, but I couldn't find it. A family seeking beauty and togetherness in nature, shattered in a moment. 2 parents murdered. 2 children left alone yet safe thanks to their mother's courage. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't vengeance or fate. It was unfathomable randomness that violated the sacredness of the hiking trail. Devil's Den had echoed with serenity for generations. Now it echoes with sorrow and questions, the kind that hide in every rustle of leaves, reminding us how fragile peace can be. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Arkansas State Police. And if you're heading into the wilderness, take care. Stay together, be aware, because sometimes danger hides where you least expect it. As always, recreate responsibly, and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility, making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.